apresentada por Claudia Assef. Fique em casa.
Thank you so much for being with us. It's a huge pleasure. And since you have a huge fan base here in Brazil, you've been to Brazil. First thing I want to know is, so please, can you let us know how to pronounce your name properly? Because here in Brazil we say Róisín.
No, it's Róisín, like rose.
Okay, so now we're all set. Okay, so my first couple of questions have to do with your background. You are this woman with a lot of music influences and a great knowledge of music, and we could all follow this during your lives. You know, the lives you were doing, they were so fun. I mean, you were listening to music and just feeling the music so much. And I have asked Rowan from BMG to come up with 3 of your top, loves in terms of albums. And he sent me 3 of them. I'm starting with one that is mine as well. That is Herbert, Around the House.
Yes.
And I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about your involvement with him, with this album, what it means, and why is it top 3 in your list?
Well, I mean, Herbert, I made my first solo album with him some time after he made this record. And so he has a special place in my heart. You know, it was a big jump for me from Moloko into a solo career, especially considering that I hadn't ever felt like I was a serious singer in the beginning, and hadn't really just sort of pursued it because I'd fallen in love and with a producer, and I had ideas and he liked my ideas and we were having fun. And so when it came to an end with Moloko, it was the only thing I'd ever known, and I didn't know if I could do it any other way. So to have found Matthew to do the first thing with was just absolutely perfect, because he was absolutely perfect because he's very kind of paternal energy and very organized, and the way that he works is he likes to find sound and sample it up. And this record, so he likes to play with found sound. He's got like a whole theory behind it, and a way of doing it that's totally unique. And this record here, Around the House, is where he really fleshed out this idea. The whole album is based around things that they've found around the house, sounds around the house. And he's quite literally made house music for around the house with bits and bobs in the house, you know, with whatever's going on in the house. So it's, and when he made my record, he made a Róisín Murphy record in the same way, in the sense that he made it out of the sounds that I make. You understand? A different attitude to, say, a proper producer, like DJ Cozy always says, you know, I'm not like Mark Ronson, I'm not a proper producer, you know. So like a proper producer is like, you know, they get the big fancy studio and they have the idea and they have the singer and they have the band and all this. But Matthew really takes a idea and then he puts a sort of sonic microscope on it.
Yeah.
And he did the same thing with me that he did on this Around the House, which is he put a sonic microscope on things that are to do with me, that make sound, and myself as well, you know, myself moving through a space, myself walking down a hall, dancing down a hall, screaming, you know, the sound of the weather, the sound of objects, all these sorts of things. And the beginning of Around the House, you know, somebody rings the doorbell and you hear all sorts of things clattering in the kitchen, and Danny is playing the piano, I think, in the background and singing. And it's such a warm, inviting, totally unique opener to an album, but it's really there to expose the brickwork, you know, to expose the structure that you're going to now, you know, you're going to go into something completely different. You've never heard anything like this before. And at that time, there wasn't anything like this. This was the unique sound, the sound itself. It wasn't even like that the style was unique or that it was twisted somehow and that you couldn't pinpoint why it sounded so different. And the reason why is because it was made from point zero completely differently than you would normally make. Certainly rock music, completely different than you make dance music, completely differently than you make jazz music, but bits of all of those things in there. So it's a beautiful record, and I really relate to the sound of being in love.
Wow, well. That's poetic.
Because that is my first album, is the sound of my relationship with Mark Brydon. It was two people in a very intimate situation with access to technology that's different than sort of having to book a big studio every 5 minutes, you know, and that's in your bedroom or in a studio in your house, that you can be in there all day and all night playing away with the one you love and experimenting. Every 5 minutes, you know, and that's in your bedroom or in a studio in your house, that you can be in there all day and all night playing away with the one you love and experimenting, and I can hear them being so in love on this record. I mean, it's
total different atmosphere to begin with. It's not like you're saying, not this huge studio with musicians and all. It's much more of the concept and how he works into it. And he's a genius. I mean, what he does with, like, for example, that piece with the pig is like, it's amazing.
Trust me, he worked at that time, and particularly, you know, at the time when he made this album, he was working in a very unique way to other producers. Certainly anyone at all in house music. And then, you know, he taught many of us the joy of the sort of quieter house, you know, of the kind of like, of the restraint of not being really banging all the time, and giving them different kinds of frequencies a chance to soothe you. And this music, you can dance to it, but you can also just live to it.
Great. And that brings us to your second top three, which is Grace Jones' private life. I mean, it's difficult to talk about Grace Jones, I'm afraid, but yeah, I want to know why you picked this album and what she means to you, like an inspiration or.
Well, this album